How's everybody doing? It's cold. It's windy. I want to get out of here just like y'all do. Eat the mic. All right. So I'm going to go over the pump. It's just some real quick stuff about the pump. We'll go over some of the stuff here. And then Roof Rabbit is going to go over his and get on the bus, and then we can all go home. How many people? I know there's a lot of people that are veterans to this, and then there's a lot of people that are brand new to this. How many are brand new and never sprayed? Oh, wow. That's good. All right, so what we got here, this is a Graco 833 system. And I actually, when I first got into all this, I had an 833 and then I sold it because I wanted to spray silicones. And this was right before this really took off with what we were doing with this. Thank God this is come about because you could still go on a day like today. You could still do what you got to do with a spreader. You're not spraying, obviously. So, but there's always the need for this, and which I've now gone back to where we just spray acrylics. We have sprayed some silicones. We still spray some silicones from time to time. But, you know, I have some GCs that we even do work for, and I absolutely do not try to push silicones on my clients on a metal roof. I think, to me, just personally, unless there's an absolute need for it for some reason, in my opinion, there's not much of a reason to have a silicone on a roof unless maybe it's a building with animal fats or some sort of minerals and different things like that that could affect the acrylic. Then maybe you would go with a Metasil system. But in most cases, we're pushing and talking to our customers about the MetaGuard or the MetaGuard Plus, depending on what we're doing. But with what we're spraying here, the cool thing about this system, there's a lot of different pumps out there. The three main ones are the 833, the 933, and then there's the XT70, I believe, unless they've changed them. Now, the XT70, for just a brief moment, is an air compressor driven style. It's not hydraulically driven like this. It's got a computer chip in it. It's kind of neat because it gives you how many gallons you're pushing, all that kind of really neat stuff. But you got to have one of those big behind your truck air compressors because that's how it drives the piston to give you the pressure you need. Okay. Now they're cool. They actually took when they developed from the 833 to the 933 to allow us to push those high pressures that we need for silicones. They took the lower off of that XT70, and then put it on that 933 and modified this system here to be able to get to 7250 psi, which is really high, and those hoses they can get really expensive, and the tips are expensive. Everything is when you go to spray silicones and you do it with a system that's rated at the 7250 psi, everything can get expensive. So just understand that. And ever since I was one of the first ones that got the 933 with that new system on the lower end, I actually had to replace my lower with a high flow lower because again, they were going through testing, and I was one of their guinea pigs, I guess, along with many others. Now, when you go with this 833, you can spray your acrylics. You can spray even the 410 acrylic because it's not a high solid. It's about 75% solids, and it's a solvent-based system, and it can get pushed through this system. We've done it. A lot of guys have. The cool thing as well is it's hydraulically driven. There's no computer chips. It is literally all gear. There's a little knob right here that you just adjust your pressures, and this turns it on and off. Pressure hydraulic on, hydraulic off, and you got your guy that's down here. He's your pump man. If something's going wrong or he's low, whatever the case may be, you shut that whole thing off right there. It's that simple. And then that eliminates any other issues, and you can just turn it off. Now, this particular system has a filter housing in it, which, like, a lot of spray contractors will have their filters to filter out stuff. A lot of times we take the little screen out because it's just going to impede your flow. You don't really need a screen per se when you're trying to push acrylics and so forth. Having your gauges and different things. This is your piston. There's packings. There's two sets. There's a throw packing and then there's a piston packing. And those packings, they are typically made of three different styles. The first kind has got leather and plastic intertwined in it. They're stacked and they're compressed. And that's what keeps you from being able to it allows you to have your pressures. When those things go out, they do. I know for me, I have a trailer that has my rig and everything set up, and it's got vices and all the tools you need to break down that thing. When I first got started, I had a 933. I was scared crapless to touch it because they're like, you're going to avoid warranties, you're going to screw something up, don't touch it, bring it to us. Well, the closest place was Birmingham. I live in Montgomery, and I was on a job 2 hours away from there. So when the thing went out, I was screwed. So I learned real quick how to, manage it and take it down and really learn the components of this system. It's really not that complicated. If you have a vise and you have a couple different things, you can do that. It's really not that bad. It's all gas driven in terms of an engine, and there's different ones. Yeah, and this one's just a standard pull start, like you said, and then like some of the 933s, like I bought it with a nice little electric start, and then it was really novel at first, and then now it's just a pull start because nobody screws around with the batteries. And so this one again. If anybody has any questions about it, we can talk more about it later. I don't want to go through every little thing about, hey, this is the grounding wire, all that fun stuff. We don't have that kind of time. But anybody have any questions real quick about it? Anything on this? And then I'm going to let Mr. Roof Rabbit go do his thing. Any questions? No? Okay, cool. What you got? What's that? ID Prime. I was going to go through that. So there's this little guy right here, just kind of like on any other paint, like a little small spray pump, right? Gray Cup, same thing in this guy. Just turn it way down, goes into prime mode, and then there's your prime stick. And it primes it. Once it's coming out and you got a good flow, you turn it back to spray mode, finish, and then you go prime your line. Now on the 933s, it's a little different. Actually, mine doesn't even have a bleeder valve. So the 933s had a little thing you bleed right here at the thing. It didn't go through this. And right at the pump, at the piston, it would bleed. Well, with the new high flow pump, when I got it, it didn't even have that. So I literally had to just prime it through the pump into the hose, and that was it. And now they have bleeder hoses on the new high flow pumps because when you get something you seize up at your gun, or you seize up because you had something in your line, whatever, you can have 6,000 pounds of pressure on your line, you have no way to release it. And so I called warranty service, like, well, how do I fix this? And they're like, well, just put a rag around it, just slowly let it loose. It's like, okay, good to know. So they've made some changes. And again, like I have one of the earliest models where they were learning all this stuff and making changes. So, and what was your other question? I heard somebody. 933 versus the 833. Which one would you choose if you're getting into this for the first time? Depends on what you're spraying. If you know you're going to spray a high solid at any point, go with the 933. Now, the 833s, these have been a workhorse. I mean, I know good friends of mine that spray these things. They leave the coating in the lines. They just lock it up, clean their wands and their tips, and just put it in. They wrap it up like this, throw it in the trailer. A couple of days, a week later, roll it out, fire it up, and just go back to spraying. I love Matt. But he has 2 or 3 of these and he does it, and he'll run thousands of gallons without having to change the set batteries. For some reason, maybe it's just good juju, I don't know. I'll go and I'll run 500 gallons through it and my packings will blow. And I'm sitting there tearing it down on site trying to replace packings. Every time I get done with a job, I'm washing it. If it's acrylic, you just hook up, and I got some cool little tricks on how to get it done quickly and run your lines and get the water through because it's water based. Now, when you're doing silicones like 410, you got to have a solvent. You got to rinse everything out. There's some special things you need to do to make sure you don't let anything set up in your lines. So, if you're going to spray, if you know you're not going to spray anything heavy solids, if you can do silicones like a 410, if you want to do any acrylics, 833 is fine. It's a lot less expensive, and they're a workhorse, and honestly, I've heard over the years there's a whole lot less issues out of an 833 than you'll see out of a 933. And 933 is just for some reason, when you're putting that kind of pressure, if you're going to try to spray the 7,000 psi's, it's just a lot of pressure. It's a lot of things that goes on here, and it wears things down, and things are going to break probably a whole lot more. And I'll tell you from experience, it does. So I'm going to turn it over to, what's your name? Chad. Sorry. Yeah. And he's going to go over the Roof Rabbit, and we'll go back and finish up with this, and we'll be done.
I'll follow up on a couple things he said there also. We are Graco dealers, obviously, because I go through a couple dollars of Graco parts a week with the Rabbits. So we got our Graco dealership. On the 933s, one of the reasons we see a lot of guys have issues with them, and obviously not, is hose restriction. restrictions. A lot of guys want to run, 250, 300 foot of hose, trying to push 7,000 psi. Silicone guys likes to stick. Silicone likes to stick. It does not like to flow. It does not want to flow. So when you're trying to push that kind of volume and things through those pumps, it puts a lot of pressure on these things, and so things give out. I mean, that's just all there is to it. So making sure that when you buy things, that you don't go with 250 foot of half-inch hose. You want to start, if you're going to run, we tell our guys, if you're going to run anything over 200 foot, we are minimum 150, that's 3/4. If you're going to go up in the 300 range, we run the first 100 foot with 1 inch. Yes, it's like fighting a fire hose, but you'll be able to spray better in the early seasons when it's cold. Late season when it starts, drop temperature, you get a lot more flow out of it, and you'll have a lot less issues with your pump. And the other thing, guys, we even have guys who say, if you're doing them out of barrels and everything else, we have guys use barrel heaters. Keep that material as warm as you can, because silicones, once it drops below about 75 degrees, she just starts congealing and does not want to spray. So that is one thing. You joked about the other than the batteries, you could not give me two 833s or full starts if I can get an electric start. I am not. Once you have an electric start and take care of them and keep the batteries, there's nothing better than just walking over there and turning it, and instead of ripping your fingers off with one kickback because the guy forgets to let the pressure off. So yeah, but like I said, yeah, the 833, same thing. We've done a couple trips. You're talking about. We actually, even on the high pressure, on the bottom here, we'll take and adapt a. We run all of ours with 2-inch intake hoses, like suction hoses that are wire cord, and we'll put big 2-inch elbows. We'll actually drill a hole in the side of it, run our purge into that. So when we purge it back into the setup, so I don't have a bucket of coatings setting up everywhere. We purge it right back into the system. That way, if you need to release pressure, it goes right back into the system, and you're not blowing it out everywhere. So that is one of the things, a couple of tricks. But yeah, these things are absolute workhorses. And the one thing that we were talking about yesterday of the efficiency, it actually does better when you actually idle the dude up, let the fan be running, and get material going through it than it does just sitting there slow idling. Because it creates heat and friction inside these lower units, and if you're pumping a lot of material, that material coming in is helping cool those packings and keeping them from building up heat because they're Teflon and leather. So when you get that Teflon hot, she likes to get a little soggy, and so it's basically like a radiator. When you bring that material through, you're helping cool those packets. So that is one thing about it is that. This is the silicone version of the Roof Rabbit. As you can see, it's like I said, kind of what we talked about. You see in the video. Did talk about some of this. Comes with everything you see except this gun here. I put this gun on here strictly to show what it does. This is the detail gun. So if you come up to an air conditioner, here I am going to try and be one-handed here. Come up to an air conditioner, you can literally come over here, spray around your pipe, protrusion, whatever you need to do all the little detail work, and then just bring it right back over. Obviously, I just cut the straps off that, so she's a little stiff there. But it comes with the high pressure wand. This is the gun it comes with. You can either use it as your main gun or your detail gun. Most guys have already got good high flow guns, so this one they usually use as their detail gun. Has a momentary brake and a set brake. That comes off the medical walker industry. So that we were joking earlier that the way that came to light was I done with First Roof a couple of years ago when we were testing it down here in Louisiana, actually in Hammond, Louisiana, and 4 of us were sitting there talking. I heard a weird noise and looked down and see this hose just blowing by us, and like, that's kind of odd. I wonder why it's doing that. And we looked up, and there's the rabbit running, just flying off the roof as fast as it wants to go. Common sense would have been step on the hose. No, 4 guys took off running after it on a 40,000 square foot roof, and we stopped it about from here to there from the edge of the roof. And I was like, I can already see this. Roofer falls off chasing this rabbit, really stepping my coatings and just went. So the brake was born right then and there. And ironically, as we were going through all the patent stuff and everything else, my insurance company that does all the liability insurance on it said it will not go out the door unless it has a brake on it. I'm like, guess what? We already figured that part out. We figured out the hard way. It has a brake on it. So this is your counterweight, also a drink holder or a tool holder. So guys throw pipe wrench, crescent wrench, whatever else throws them in there. I've got a guy who actually wrapped a Gatorade bottle, slid it down in there, can foamed it, and that's his cooler. He keeps a drink in there the whole time. So, but like I said, you have the high pressure wand comes with it. These are 8,000 psi hose, 32,000 psi burst ratings on them. Comes with the Graco high pressure swivels, XHD tips, 831 tips that come with it, and like I said, the tip guards. And so on a flat roof like this, obviously we can stretch this thing out. You can put a set of like if you're doing silicone, you can put a set of 831s or something like that in there, and get it really wide. You can run 30 plus inch passes, putting down 30 to 40 mils. So you have the adjustability on your width. Actually, so when we're adjusting it, you're literally you're just gonna undo these wing nuts here, and that's gonna allow you to slide this and do your adjustability on your width. If you need to do your patterns wider there, you've got that. And then same thing obviously on the angle. So if you're on an SSR or an SLR that you really need to angle those tips and get them a little more centered at one spot, you can do that. We've got guys who will take these, scoot these together about 8 inches apart, take like 331s, pre-treat every seam on both sides on an SSR and SLR. They'll just run up and down, just put enough coating so they know they get the mill thickness. Once they're done with that, since there's no coatings in the pan, where the wheels ride, they'll come back, put their big tips in, same day, go right back along and spray. You don't get those holidays on the backside, and you get all that. And you're doing it, as you said, you're standing up. It's just all day. It's just a steady walk. You're just walking down. You get to the end of the roof. You literally just lean, pick up, scoot over. Don't hit somebody in the forehead. And it's just a steady walk back and forth. And like I said, you minimize your stitch lines because now you've got 30 plus inch passes and they're straight lines. You don't get that weaving with the old back and the guys leaning over. So this is the silicone version, as I said. I'll grab here real quick. This is what would come with the acrylic version. So you actually got a new wand. Same thing. This is all your detail stuff with your gun there, and then the 2 drop tubes. Everything's identical. Just this is 4,000 psi rated versus 7250, as Steve was saying. So there's that. The only difference in those two there is that side. And then here's another tool that we talked about yesterday. This one's called the rabbit's foot, and it comes with a wing nut. I joked with the guys. I guess my trip down here I lost it. Comes with a bolt and wing nut. So this allows you to hook onto an end of a Graco wand. So it allows you to actually spray the underneath side of a SLR, SSR. Just a steady walk back and forth. Take like a 331 tip and 327, something like that, and you actually spray it and you actually fill that pads right there inside the crimp side of an SLR or the crimp side of the SSR, and allows you to pre-treat those standing up. You're walking steady. I've got a video on my phone. I was showing the guys that we done a 600,000 square foot SSR last year, and my brother in 2 days, there's 54 miles of vertical seams on that job. And in 2 days, he walked and coated every square inch of those vertical seams with that attached to one of these ones with an 833 undercoat. It's just steady walk back and forth. He got his steps in for the week on those 2 days. So, but there is going to be a code. And I will, Brian, can you send out, but it's very simple. FAST21, just FAST 2021, so just FAST21 gets a $100 discount on these for anybody who's attended here. I've done that just as a thank you to American Weather Star to allow me to come in and show this to guys. And like I said, that would allow you guys, you can go straight to the website, order it. I am, for the first time in 2.5 years, we can't keep up with production at the exact moment. We're making batches of 30 at a time, and right now we're about 2 weeks out, but it is something with guys that once you get the hang of it, it is all you have to worry about with whoever you have running it is give them a mill check plate just like they were showing. Once they get the rhythm of what they need to walk, it's just steady walk all day long. I have guys who literally, their crew, whoever gets on it in the morning will not take a lunch break because he knows he won't get to get back on it after lunch and have to go do detail work. And they will fight and will not take lunch breaks. They'll just like, well, I'll eat later. And because they know if they let go of it, somebody else will not actually let them back on it. So they fight over that. But one other thing I wanted to hit on that I hadn't talked about, I talked about a little bit yesterday. Is let's say you're up to a metal roof, you go up the edge. You have the ability to walk to the edge, stay behind your 6-foot warning line system. The tips are cambered at a 5 degrees, so you can actually take it to the edge, and it will spray out to the roof's edge without the wheels going off the roof edge. So that way you can then, once you get past, all you do is pull it back behind your 6-foot line, move it over, push her back down, start, walk backwards. We always walk basically to the peak of a roof. So if you're on a flat roof, you would picture frame, or that's how we typically do our roof. We always picture frame, where we know guys are not going to be walking around those perimeters. So once you picture frame it, then you have your spots that you're just back and forth. Production-wise, guys, on acrylics, I had a crew in Massachusetts doing a system with 2 of them. They put out 89,000 square feet of roof in one day. So it's the numbers are crazy potential. They were putting down 22 wet mills. Is all the system they were doing for that manufacturer was 22 wet mills, a 2-coat system of that. And so that, and then I've had guys, like I said, average 3,400 square feet an hour per unit with silicone. So we had a guy in Indiana that owns 4 of them, and he does nothing but silicone, and they done 1 million square feet in the month of November with 4 of them. So, sadly, I think he has a family member that has the big P letter up there. So, but any questions on it? Anybody have any questions on it that they would like to have answered? I have an overspray hutch for it. Actually, it will be on the website next week. It's actually will attach it to the end here, comes down, and the screen has an opening at the top. You can still adjust your tips. The screen will drop down right inside the inside wheel. It is orientation-wise, left or right. If you need to go on that side, you can do nothing but undo, slide them through, flip your hoses over there. You can be right-handed. So whichever way you need to walk your way off the roof. We have roofs, obviously, we go one side all the way down, flip it, come back the other way. So you can flip it, you can move it over in 2 minutes, you can have it left or right hand orientation. Yes? Because I had a Amish gentleman who watched us use my very first one, and he said that in his perfect German accent, said I looked like a rabbit stuck behind a fence. He said you just kept running back and forth and you didn't know what the heck you were doing. I said, well, part of that was right. I probably didn't know what I was doing, but I thank you for the name. So, Roof Rabbit is actually has stuck with it for. I built the first one, like I said, back in the early 2000s, and that name is just has stuck with it. Now we have the Rabbit Hutch, we have the Rabbit Foot, and we have another product that will be released very, very soon. That it's called the Swamp Rabbit. So. Any other? What's that? It's involved in the prep, is all I can say. My patent lawyer tells me to keep my lips shut, and that's hard. So, any other questions? Yes. It actually, it is a set fixed with buttons, so the replaceable. So it's got set fittings that drop tubes, and the frame. It keeps about 2.5 inches off the surface. It is designed more for a catch than it actually is. If you use a solid material, the problem is wind hits it, like days like this, wind hits that, it literally creates a velocity, just like parapet walls do, and it actually sucks up the spray. So we went with a material that actually we use for spray foam, which is like a shade cloth style material used in the greenhouse industry, and it actually lets the wind still come through. It slows the velocity down, but it lets the wind blow through and catches it on the whichever downwind side, helps catch it with static. That actually grabs the material on that side, which the nice thing about silicone is it will build a static as it grabs through that, just like spray foam will. Acrylics aren't near as much on that, but so that allows it, and then those will be replaceable just if you can't peel off. But then when it finally gets to the point that it's becoming like Tyvek, then you just literally take it off and throw another replaceable screen on it. All will be you already have the frame. Yeah, we'll just sell replaceable screens for it. They're all great. Like the 3-day button snaps on the bottom, just snaps on, ready to go. Any other questions?